The crazy thing about these machines, and we got them all over the place. There's a bunch of them. We've got about 85 or 90 machines because nothing is too good for you as a student around here. These S350s are very expensive machines. They're computerized machines. They have circuit boards in them. So what we're going to talk about in this video is preventative maintenance. What you should do at the end when you're done, and what should definitely be done every couple weeks with these things. Now, our factory reps come in once or twice a year and they plug their computers into these and they upgrade software, and they can calibrate the RPMs of the engines, and they can do all kinds of stuff with these. But your job is daily preventative maintenance. And we can make these machines run more consistent. We can make them run longer. We can make them wear longer. And it's just a real bummer to come in here to weld all day and you spend a bunch of time fixing something that could have been avoided with a little bit of maintenance. So I'm going to show you how to run through this thing when you're done welding at the end of the day. First thing we want to do is come in here and take a look at this. And just keep in mind, these things require cooling. They have fans in them. These are circuit boards with little buttons and little rheostat dials. And if I walk in here and do this, look at this. That's just right off the top of the machine. That stuff gets into those circuit boards and can wreak havoc. These machines are very costly, and they're also very costly to fix. So one of the big things you should do every time you're done using this machine, it's called an air blower, and air's pretty free, kinda. But watch this. Just watch when I spray this, okay? You can see all this stuff coming out of this thing. So I just want to get right in there, and I want to get in the back where the louvers are. See the louvers? Anytime you have louvers, there's air coming out of there or going in there. It only takes a minute. You have time. Watch here. Just filthy. Okay, we've got the stuff blown off, right? We've got the stuff blown off. Now, you don't need to do this every day, but it's not a bad idea to take this wire every once in a while. And your instructors are going to build you a program for maintenance in these machines. On this wire feeder, though, I want to loosen this knob right here. And if I do, I can pull this gun out. And there is another video on this that shows you how to do this better. When you're trying to get your wires, sometimes they get a little sticky. Well, let's try this one. That one over here definitely needs some work. But I don't want to show you that one because it's coming out too hard. They're not supposed to come out hard. We'll fix that, not on the video. So see, I can pull this thing out, right? I'm just going to clip the wire off. And what I'm going to do is pull the trigger switch off. And I'm going to take the ends of the consumables off. My contact tip. If you watch the other videos, you know all about this. And the diffuser, gas diffuser. We're going to pull these off. I'm going to pull this wire out of here. Now when you pull the wire out, because all of you are going to do this, a couple things with this wire. Make sure that you don't get poked in the eye. Okay? Number two, this wire can work its way, if you just throw it on the floor, can work its way up inside the machine. Remember, these machines have radiators, they have cooling fans, and they have components in there that don't want to be touched by steel wire. So I just kind of ravel this thing up, fold it in half, wrap this guy around here, and I'll throw it in the scrap bin. But what I'm going to do with this, we'll see if we can get this to show you. You can see there's a bunch of stuff down in there, and I'm simply just going to blow it out. So I'm going to take my nozzle and blow this liner out. Now if nothing comes out, it's not a bad idea. You should take it a step further, and you can loosen these things up and take this end off too. We can pull that liner right out of there. Periodic maintenance also includes changing the liners, which probably hasn't been done on these machines in quite a while. But if they're working fine, we don't need to change them. I'm just going to run some air through this dude. Call it good. If I don't see a lot of stuff coming out, I might loosen up the end of it here. Pull the liner out, blow a little more air through it. The other thing you want to check is these little rubber O-rings. You can see that one of them looks a little bit dried out, a little bit cracked up. Those O-rings are where your gas comes into the torch. Those holes are where the gas comes in. So those O-rings can sometimes leak and contaminate your system. Check the trigger plugs, make sure they're tight. These can actually be taken apart. These can be broken open if need be to replace the triggers. But if they're good and tight and the connection fits good, right? We put that on there. As long as the connection fits tight and everything looks good and it feels good and those look pretty good, then you don't really need to change the stuff. Then we go right back in to our machine. Tighten up our set screw, and we're pretty much ready to go. Okay? Now the other thing you always want to look for when you're doing maintenance on any machine is these cables. You know, we deal with a bunch of hot metal that's getting flopped around and thrown around all the time, and we want to be sure that we're not exposed. See, there's a little bit of tape there. We want to make sure that we're not exposing ourselves to any open cables. So the general rule is, if this insulation has a little cut in it, we can put it back together and we can wrap some black tape around it. But if you see the cable, you have a bigger problem. So you want to look this stuff over. If that one looks good, we're going to wrap it up nice and loose. Remember, this corrugated liner in here and this machine does not like to be kinked. It does not like to be turned sharp. If you kink that liner, and they will, then your wire won't feed through it very well. So nice, loose wraps on there. We're going to look everything over. We're going to make sure that the dials aren't falling off. We're going to make sure that everything's fitting good, nothing's dirty. These don't seem to ever last long, right over the trigger guard there. They just don't ever last very long. We put our stuff back together. Another thing we want to make sure is that these adjusting screws on this roll of wire aren't too tight. Because see, if I tighten it up, that thing turns really hard. So what happens is the motor has to work twice as hard, and it will jerk, and it's just not a very consistent movement. So you can see that thing's pretty tight. I'm going to loosen this thing up a little bit, just until it spins nice and free. And that way the motor can easily pull the wire through. Gas lines we want to check every once in a while for leaks. If you have a leak, all these fittings should get a little soapy water sprayed on them. They come in to the back of the machine. Just once in a while, check these things for leaks. We also want to look the cord over for any holes, because it doesn't take much of a hole. There's a spot right there, but it doesn't seem to have a hole in it. I would probably wrap a little tape around that. It doesn't take much at all of a hole to contaminate your gas system, and then you have all kinds of problems and you can't figure out why. We also want to make sure that these fittings aren't damaged. See how the side of that fitting is oblonged, smashed a little bit, flattened out? It's not going to fit up inside of the flow meter correctly. So that needs to be changed out. And we buy these parts, we buy piles of these parts. So it's all of our duties to take care of these machines. They're not our machines, they're your machines. It doesn't take long to wrap the cords up correctly, blow them off, check the liners once in a while, keep good consumables on the end of it, and if we all do our part maintaining these MIG welding machines, they will run for years and years and years and years and years.